dads.
It's the tournament of papas. I worked hard on that.
Papas!
Bob, you're killing me.
You weren't even the one that suggested it. You worked hard on it.
I worked hard on it. I got it perfected. What did you just do, sir?
I pushed the button.
No, when I was fussing right after I fussed.
No.
What did
Papas! Yes.
Uh-huh.
We all know about
everybody at home listening to the podcast is doing the same thing. Worked hard at that. You got me? All
sure.
Right.
And yet you still play the old recordings.
That was Joe hitting that button. I don't know what that was. All right. So anticipating it was just going to be Kurt and I made this very silent to Kurt, but we'll see what you got to say, Joe. How do we introduce our kids to, I specifically picked Marvel because there's a great show out there called This Week in MCU that sometimes puts on an episode. Well, not sometimes. They put on an episode when there's stuff to talk about.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But how do we introduce our kids to Marvel and I put in some age ranges, they're just random to say young, really young to kind of young to not so young to teenager.
Spidey and his amazing friends is great for young kids.
Okay. That is true. Also, my granddaughter, for example, loves the I Am Groot shorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And, like literally, she'll come over and we'll
3.
Oh no, she's about to turn 5 next week.
Oh, wow.
But
other kids' ages.
Yeah, but at like 3 to 4, she was asking for Groot, and she would come over and she'd go, Groot, and it's like, okay, you want to watch Groot? Yep, and we just watch it, and she laughs like the Groot where he's in the mud pit and growing sprouts and then shaping them all up. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
She started getting into it. And knows who Spider-Man is now, and it's early. But like when my kids were younger, it was really like Iron Man, and starting early before there was this huge Marvel thing. So I really have to do that to backfill. So. What about you, Joe? You got younger kids.
Yeah, so they watched a bunch of the animated stuff, but they haven't watched the movies just yet.
Oh, okay.
We've been talking about introducing it to them. We just haven't gotten around to it because we're still working on The Hobbit with them. So that, and we're watching some anime with them as well. So we'll get to it eventually.
And how old are they again?
11, 10, and 5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly the MCU is probably fine for the 11 and 10-year-old for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, it should be fine.
Yeah. 5, it's probably a little above their head.
Yeah. Well, he tends to just tune out anyway when we're watching stuff. A lot of times he'll just grab his iPad and be like, okay, I'm just going to tune out.
Yep.
When we're like, whatever, that just means you're not climbing all over us and bugging us because you're bored.
Right.
Well, you read from the book of Bluey. I figured you'd be stealing from that. It's like, oh, mommy's a whale who only eats nachos. That's the only episode I ever knew because that's the one that was on the Guinness office. I was like, that's the best.
You pull a face, Kurt, but that's an actual episode where the parents are just tired. And yep.
I believe you, but have you all seen the horror festival that is Coco Melon?
Oh, I've seen bits of we've seen some Coco Melon, but no, I don't like.
I cannot believe some of the stuff I was watching on there.
No, thank you.
Like they were all but teaching karate to toddlers. It was the weirdest. It was weird.
Is way, 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 like million times better than Coco Melon.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Clearly, they need to bring Bluey into the MCU.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Nah, we're good.
This was Bluey.
It. Okay.
Bluey can be friend with Cosmo the dog. There you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So when with little kids, my kids didn't have a lot of options. They ended up watching some older stuff. But and I got this stupid ad on here. Blocked the title. Oh crap! I just had it, man.
We don't see that.
I know you don't see it. That's why it's called a podcast. I'm doing color commentary while I'm buying time to get back to the show. Now, the Spidey and his amazing friends was okay for us. It just didn't land as well in our house as
Well,
the
it's for
Superhero
younger.
Squad show did. No, they were about the right age. Zoe was, but the Superhero Squad show landed
Superhero
way
Squad show. I don't know
Yeah,
if I've ever heard of that one.
Yeah, it was based on these chunky kind of play school action figure type
kinda,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, they absolutely partnered.
No,
with one of
they
those
are
companies
Play
to make
School.
those toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was actually really brilliantly written, and that's one of the best iterations of MODOK I've ever seen. It was as an adult.
You mean you don't like the
I
one
didn't say I
from the
didn't like
movie?
it. I didn't say I didn't like it. I actually was okay with it.
I was just reading between the lines like you told me to.
And the one
Look,
they did on Hulu.
It's a note.
Yeah, the one they did on Hulu was better, although poorly written. It was terrible. But Patton Oswalt as MODOK.
It was so bad.
It was the writing that was bad. Everything else about it was fine. But
Clearly, they should have stuck him in the belly of a robot and just brought in Krang.
It's not so. All right, the next age up. Honestly, Joe, I think it's time to write this with at least Malachi. Next Avengers: Heroes of Tomorrow.
it's not
Next
bad.
Avengers. We may have watched that one. That's a movie, isn't it?
Yeah. It's an animated release.
Next Avengers: Heroes of Tomorrow. Yeah, we have that one. We have watched that one.
Bob might even be ready for that one. That's pretty decent.
But I would not suggest Deadpool and Wolverine releasing on November 12th on Disney Plus.
All my kids have watched it already.
Yeah, no, I know, but
I haven't seen it.
I'm going to be freeze framing the crap out of that thing.
I am that y'all need to do an MCU. Yeah, this week in the MCU.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
But then one for the adults that I watched with my young teens and preteens, Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
That's the just straight up animated series.
With the Linkin Park inspired opening theme, and
it's good. It was really good.
So good. It was so good. And that's what I like to do to introduce my kids. Like, okay, I watched there was one with the DC girl. I think it's called DC Rise, where it's the women of DC and younger girls of DC.
That was wasn't it just I know what you're talking about.
There was a young one by DC, but there was another one. No, I'm thinking of Marvel.
You're Marvel Rising Heroes or something like that.
That one.
Was that one with Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
And then the DC one that you're talking about is Superhero Girls, I think,
like
or
that,
something like that.
And neither one of them really landed right for my daughters. Go ahead, Joe.
Did you ever watch X-Men Evolution?
Yeah. Yep.
No.
Where they're in high school and Mystique is one of their teachers.
Yep.
It was all right.
It was all right.
I think my favorite part of that was there was a scene where they're telling Nightcrawler to just bamf out of a jet, and he's like, when I bamf, I continue at the same acceleration that I'm at. So if you want me to bippity boppity boppity splat, then we can do that.
Right.
Just give them some good armor, and that's almost like a great cannonball run.
They actually the problem with the X-Men animated stuff is after the 97, the original,
the original 97
one, they did like 4 or 5 different series, like just one after another, trying to find something that stuck, and they were all pretty good in their own right. It's just you couldn't really stick with anything for a while.
That reminds me, there's a Wolverine anime that I had on my Netflix list that I meant to go watch. And
I think I've seen. There's a couple of X-Men animes out there that they're pretty good.
Well, there's a whole series of Marvel.
There
was a whole series of Marvel ones that they did. They did an X-Men one. They did a Wolverine one. They did an Iron Man one.
So I still need to watch the Batman one where he's a samurai. haven't watched that.
Oh yeah, which is pretty good actually.
I've heard great things about
Yeah.
it. Now here's a real question about it. When it doesn't matter about the age, we've answered that pretty well, I think. When you finally sit down and go, okay, kiddo, we are going to take this on. Today you're going to be an adult. We're going to take this on. And they're like 13, whatever. Do you do it in chronological release like we experienced it? Or do you do it in the Marvel timeline ability that you have on Disney Plus?
Well, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I'm just gonna say, in general, when it comes to fandoms, I feel like you should watch it in release order the first time. Obviously, on rewatches, do whatever you want, but I think if you want the most authentic experience, release order is what you're looking at.
I tend to agree, but I think it's fun to go back and watch in actual chronological order after that, just to kind of get a different perspective. But the release order the thing is they set things up, like at the stingers and whatnot, set things up for the following movies that come out often. And so if you take that stuff out of rotation, it gets weird sometimes.
Maybe. I actually have not watched it in chronological order yet. And see, my thing is,
Disney Plus, you can actually look at it and it gives it to you in chronological order.
Random kid, roll the tape back and play where I said, like you have the ability to on Disney Plus. Thank you. So I'm thinking there was also some weaknesses in. Thank you, Random kid. He said, I got you, Charles. There were some weaknesses in how we got some stuff released. So I'm wondering. I think it would be interesting to do it in the timeline order, because my kids are like me. We don't tend to go back and watch stuff. Now I will rewatch stuff like The Matrix or whatever when it's their first time, right? I don't know. Like, okay, would you apply that to Star Wars? Do you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or do you go 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9?
My older two have watched Star Wars. They watched it in release order. Jebediah has not yet, and we were actually just talking about how we need to do that, and we're planning on watching it in release order.
So 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
I saw it in release order because I lived through it.
Right.
But I did go back and watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And
I can't get past the weakness of the first trilogy. It just
felt weak.
It just bugs me. And look, I know that
my kids,
like my kids, that it was their first Star Wars as well, and so it hits them different. And honestly, if you think about it, if 1, 2, 3 were our first, and then we got 4, 5, 6, we can talk about 7, 8, 9. But I mean, but then we got 4, 5, 6. It would have just been getting better for 6 movies. You could argue Empire versus Jedi, right? I mean,
but obviously it would hit differently though, because you wouldn't have that huge reveal of "I am your father."
But it's different bad.
That was a big reveal, man. I mean,
but my kids know the meme before they see the movie nowadays.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. You know where it makes a difference? When Leia kisses Luke in Empire, right? And at the time, it was just innocent. It was no big deal.
Were they named in 3? And then the 3 when
yes,
they were specifically mentioned as Luke and Leia.
Leia's going to go with Bail. Leia was going to go with Bail, and it was.
I mean,
and you knew it was Bail Organa.
Storyline is questionable anyway, but This is so stinking nerdy.